Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask My Why Live. I'm so glad you decided to join in on the conversation today. Listen, today's conversation is a conversation that a lot of people do not like to talk about, but we are going to get into it on today. We're talking about financial health. Now, I know a lot of us, we working on our beach bod, we're going into winter and, we about to be eating in all these holidays, and then we're going to be trying to lose weight to go to to the beach and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of us are going to be spending a lot of money that we don't need to be spending. And this is a time where I feel like, I know for me, it is a conversation that I have to have with myself. And I often have these conversations with a lot of people. But today I'm coming to bring the table and the food to you. So you can't say nobody tried to help you, but we're here to help you in this journey of working out our financial health. And today I have with me a very, very special person who is helping me. That goes by the name of Wes Ifan. Got that right, Wes?
You did, yeah.
So he is a financial advisor. He will tell you more about himself and what he does as we take in on this conversation. So get your pens ready, get your tissues ready, and get your towels ready, because you're going to probably start sweating with some of the stuff he's going to share with us on today. Wes, how are you doing?
I am doing great, Maisha. Thank you so much for inviting me to come and have this really important conversation. Yeah, I'm really excited about talking about it and helping some folks out there.
Absolutely. Listen, if there's nothing else, we as people know how to spend money. So it's time that we learn how to do better, because if nothing else, I know for me on a day-to-day basis of meeting people, especially when they're hit with a unnecessary fee, such as funerals, when they're hit with that large sum of money that they got to come up with at a very short window of time, and some people are not prepared for stuff like that. Some people are not even prepared for a $200 interruptance in their day-to-day. So in this conversation, so when we're talking about financial health, Wes, tell us why is financial health so important?
Well, this question is really important because I've had conversations with people about the fact that your financial health actually impacts your mental and physical health. And the way that they've done it, they've done studies on this. They've studied what happens when people's finances are in disarray and what that actually does to them mentally and physically. And so you'll see a direct correlation between poor finances and financial wellness not being quite where it needs to be, and people having higher blood pressure, higher levels of stress, cortisol in their bloodstream. All of these different things, cholesterol levels go up, heart rates go up. People don't realize the connection between your financial health and your physical and mental health. And now, in a day and age when mental health is becoming a lot more of a conversation, we never used to talk about it in our communities, especially in our Black community. But now, because we're having those conversations, we're also seeing the correlation between mental health and finances. And so I think financial health is so important because not only does that impact for our ability to pass along generational wealth, but it also has impact on us physically and mentally in terms of our health. And so having conversations about it, learning about what we need to do to have and promote good financial habits so that we have financial wellness and health, I think that has become really the new way of us in our communities combating some of the physical ailments that we deal with and the challenges that we often face.
Absolutely. And something you said there are financial habits. So what are some good financial habits?
Okay, well, good financial habits on the one is making sure you budget. I think people have thought that budget is a negative word, that it's like oh, I don't like budgets. I've heard people say that to me because it seems restrictive. And I've asked people, I said that when you're driving on a mountain and you have the guardrails, do you prefer the guardrails to be there or not to be there? And Absolutely. They say, well, I prefer the guardrails to be there. And I say, well, a budget is guardrails. That's all it is. We can't look at it negatively. We got to look at it from the standpoint of this is guarding my financial health by making sure that I do adopt the right habits. The other thing that is important in terms of financial habits is making sure that you pay yourself first. I use that phrase probably a dozen times in my financial meetings with people because, we have a tendency to work to pay bills, but we also got to work to save and pay ourselves. And it's important for us to have a mindset, a mentality that says, when I make money, because I work hard to make my money, I need to pay myself first. I need to do something for me today, and I need to do something for myself for the future. And so having that is a really good financial habit. So budgeting, paying yourself first, and then the final thing is you have to invest. I think people have kind of thought that, well, if I'm going to put my money, I'm going to put it in the bank. We've been taught to do CDs and all these other things, which are not bad, but the wealthy and those who are well-to-do from a financial perspective, all of them invest in some way, whether it's in real estate or in stocks or some other type or business. People that have means and have wealth, they invest. And so we have to be good at budgeting. We have to be good at paying ourselves. We have to invest. Those are good financial habits.
Wow. Listen, that in itself was a lot to take in, because a lot of times, because some people will consider paying themselves as, oh, let me go buy me a Gucci bag. Oh, let me go buy a car. That, to me, that's not paying yourself, because those are things that could perish the moment that you drive off the lot of that car can get in an accident. And now here you are, carless.
Mm-hmm. Right. And not able to get back what you bought it for. So.
Absolutely, that part too. So when we're talking about those habits and things like that, some would say there's good debt and there's bad debt. Mm-hmm. Is there truth in that? Or is there such
truth? There is truth, but I always tell people, but there is like this underlying caveat, I like to call it, where, yeah, I mean, there is such a thing as good debt and bad debt, but you also want to be somebody who, if you can help it, that you don't incur too much debt, good or bad, right? An example of good debt would be something that's attached to an appreciating asset. A home comes to mind, right?
Got you.
If I take out a mortgage to buy a home, yeah, is that debt? Absolutely. But is it good debt? Yes, because the reality is that real estate, if I hold it for any period greater than 7 years, that I'm going to get back more than what the mortgage is, and I'll be able to pay off the mortgage and walk away with some equity, gotcha. Right? And so I tell people that any debt that is attached to an appreciating asset is considered good debt.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
I will say it one more time. Any debt that is attached to an appreciating asset, meaning that that asset is going to grow, it's going to be worth more in the future. So this is not a car, right? A car, it loses value over time, right? So but a home appreciates, it gains value over time. Any type of debt that is attached to an appreciating asset would be considered good debt.
Gotcha.
So now, the flip side of that is anything that is attached to a depreciating asset or no asset at all, right? Consumer credit cards, there's no asset attached to it at all, right? Mm-hmm. So, if you're accumulating a lot of credit card debt, that would be the worst kind of debt to have, because it's high interest. There's no collateral. There's really no way of being able to get that money back. You just have to pay it in perpetuity until it's paid off. And so when people have these conversations about good and bad debt, I always ask them, well, what are we getting, right? What are we buying with that debt? What is it exactly that we're doing? I saw a statistic that most of the millionaires in the United States, they invest using other people's money.
Absolutely.
Right? So perfect example is Jeff Bezos. He's obviously a multi-billionaire, right? He, on his taxes, doesn't claim a salary. I think the salary he claims from Amazon is $100,000. And somebody would say a billionaire doesn't make $100,000 a year. But he claims that as his salary because he actually lives off of the credit. So he has assets that he has lines of credit attached to, and he uses those lines of credit to either buy other businesses, to purchase real estate, and then he pays that debt back using other investments that he has. Wow. So he's constantly using other people's money, banks' money, to invest in other ventures, businesses, real estate, etc. And he just keeps using the bank's money and never touches his own. Wow. So that's an example of good debt. Again, somebody using debt to acquire assets, acquire businesses, things of that nature. And so, this conversation around good debt and bad debt, always link it to what you're going to be doing with that debt. If you're going to just be buying more purses and suits and, sneakers and everything like that, well, I mean, you'll look good, but your finances won't look good, right?
You're going to look good or you're going to be broke.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is that we have to figure out, how do we use debt appropriately to gain assets?
Cool. So, I was in a conversation the other day and it came up and we were talking about, because I've had this theory of people got to be P&B qualified, pension and benefit qualified.
I like that.
But when you're trying to secure, because we were talking about investments and talking about, leaving a legacy, and for people that have children, right. What is a way to secure the future, whether it's in a retirement plan or a 401k plan? What are ways for those that may not be because some people would say start it when you're in your 20s. But for those who may be older in age, over 20s and their 30s and 40s, that feel like maybe they're a little too old to try and start a plan, or they got to put more in, what is a way or a method or strategy that they can use to secure their legacy and their future?
Okay. So a lot of times when people get started late, the biggest question is, how do I catch up, right? Because if I didn't start a 401k or a 403b or some other, retirement plan through work, if I didn't start that in my 20s, and here I am in my mid, late 30s, early 40s trying to start, how do I get caught up? Well, the first thing that I tell people is you do have to start, right? And you have to start wherever you are. Now, for those because we just got done talking about debt, there may be people who say, well, I have debt, I can't really save, I can't really invest. Well, obviously in those cases, I'll tell people, let's pay down the debt, let's get it down to a reasonable level where, okay, now I can at least take some of that income and put it towards investing. But I would say, if all else is equal, let's get started. If you don't have a plan through work, you can start an individual retirement account, and you can begin to invest and save for your retirement that way. If you have something through work, get started. I usually tell people, does your company offer a match? If they do, what is it? Is it the first 3% of your income? Is it the first 4%? Whatever that match is, I tell people to start there. That should be the minimum amount of income that you're contributing to your retirement account through your job, because if you don't contribute at least up to the match, you're leaving money on the table. So I'll tell people, start off wherever you are right now. If you have a retirement account at work, let's start contributing to it. Let's start where the match is. If you don't have an account through work, then let's start an individual retirement account and begin investing on a consistent basis. Start with $50 a month. If that's all you can do to start off, start with $50 a month. Right. And start putting money aside into some kind of an investment plan where you can start to grow that money, and then look to increase it. I always tell people, on a year-to-year basis, if you get, I know they don't do raises that much anymore, but if you start getting a raise, if they give you a 3% raise, 2% goes to yourself, 1% goes to your retirement account. In some cases, I tell people to reverse it. Give yourself 1% and put 2% towards your retirement. Right. Because if you're behind, you probably should put the full raise into your retirement account, right? So for people who are starting late, I will let them know, let's start. When you get a raise, take the full 3% or whatever percentage raise you have and put that right into your retirement account, and continue to do that each year. That's how you can start to catch up, because look, the only two things that help you when it comes to saving for retirement is time and money. Well, if you starting late, you don't have a lot of money that you're starting off with. So right. Time is really your only asset. So right. You just have to make the most of the time that you have left, so that between now and the time that you plan to retire, you can save as much as you can.
Got you.
Yeah.
So would that same rule of thumb apply for people that are entrepreneurs?
Yes, it would. And the way entrepreneurs have a slight advantage is that entrepreneurs can set up individual 401k plans, or they can set up what are called simplified employer pension IRAs. That's short is SEP IRA. They can set those up and contribute larger amounts. So I'll give you an example of a client that I just recently started working with. He has a trucking business. He had spent the majority of the first 15 years of his business growing the business, right? Because that's his baby, right? He's got to make sure that it becomes self-sufficient. He now is at a point where the business is mature. He has several drivers for him, working for him. And he said, Wes, I need to start planning for retirement. I mean, I can't do this business forever. Right. I plan on working another 15 to 20 years, and then I want to exit the business. So I told him, I said, well, we have a two track strategy. One is you got to make sure that your business is viable enough to be able to sell it at a profit, right? So you got to make sure that your business is still good. You got to make sure that it's economically advantaged, right? You got to continue to make those improvements in the business. But I said, but the second track is we're going to set up a SEP IRA. I asked him, I said, how much money does he typically pull out of the business as his own income? And I think at this point, he said he's taking about $125,000 on a yearly basis. So I said, okay, so it's a healthy business. You're taking $125,000 in income. I said, do you need the whole $125,000? He said, honestly, no. He's been putting some of that money into savings. So I asked him, I said, well, how much is in your savings? He said, well, over the last 15, or he's only been doing that $125,000 for the last 8 years. And so he said that he has about $160,000 in savings. I said, okay. I said, here's what we're going to start doing. Rather than you have $160,000 in savings, that's good enough to take care of you if you needed income in a pinch, right? We're going to start redirecting that money into a SEP IRA, because what he now has the ability to do is he can contribute either 25% of his revenues or $63,000, whichever is less. Okay. He's able to do that and contribute it into a SEP IRA. So this year he made a contribution of $47,000 into a SEP IRA because it was 25% of his revenues, and he was able to deduct that off of his income. So now he didn't make 125,000; he made 125,000 less the 47, right? Wow. So now it's helping him on his taxes. So he's now able to show less income, and he now doesn't owe he won't owe the IRS, I don't think. His accountant has to run numbers, but I think he's going to probably get a refund now because the contribution he made was so significant that it reduced his taxable income down to the next lowest tax bracket. So now he's saving on taxes. He's putting money into a SEP IRA. He's funding his future retirement, and he's taking advantage of the tax laws that are in place for him as an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurs have the ability to help themselves on two fronts when they save into retirement accounts. They're able to help themselves to save for retirement, and then they're also able to help themselves on taxes, which is a huge problem for entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. Usually, I don't know about you, but I'm always owing the IRS because even though I pay my estimated taxes, we file, and even with my wife's income, and she takes money out of her check all the time, we still end up owing. I think we owed $1,400 to the federal and like $300 to the state. And I was like, man, I can't get this estimated quarterly right. But when I decided this year, I said, you know what? I'm going to just start putting, instead of paying the estimated quarterlies at the amount that I was paying, I'm going to start putting that money into my SEP. And the accountant just told me, and said that I think you're actually going to come out net neutral. So you're going to probably not owe anything on the federal, and you're probably going to only owe like maybe $60, $70, $80 maybe on the state. And I was like, oh, that would be great. If I owe nothing and I'm net zero on the federal, oh, I'm good. I don't want to write a check. I don't need a refund. Just get me net zero and I'm good. But that means that I'm now putting more money into the retirement account, which is better for me and my wife, and I'm paying less on taxes. So it's a win-win for entrepreneurs when it comes to that. And so definitely, even if you're starting late, entrepreneurs have an advantage to be able to do that.
Got you. So when you're talking about, getting to the point of saving and dealing with retirement, some people find it a struggle. It's hard we all have to start somewhere. We got to start somewhere. And for those that may be struggling on trying to figure out how to get out of debt, out of that bad debt, and get themselves to a place where they can, because truth of the matter is a lot of people don't even have enough to spare to save. Right. Some people are drowning in just trying to keep households afloat with, the prices raising on everything. And God forbid if they have multiple children, it becomes a lot. So when it comes to those people who are struggling with trying to get out of debt, what is a plan or method that you would recommend to help them get over that hurdle?
Okay. So one thing that's important to note is that in the United States, and I'm trying to remember where I read this statistic, but essentially most Americans owe somewhere between $6,000 and $15,000 in credit card debt and personal debt. So let me repeat that. They owe somewhere between $6,000 and $15,000 in credit card and personal debt on average. Mm. The majority of these individuals have low income, meaning that they're making less than, from a household perspective, if it's a two-income household, they're making less than $60,000 a year. If it's a one income, they're making less than $30,000 a year. So when you have that kind of low income, it can become very difficult to pay off debt because, like you said, I can't even begin to pay into a 401k or put money into an IRA and save for retirement and save for school and all these type of things that you're talking about, Wes. I don't have enough income to do that. So the thing is that I give people a step-by-step plan for how we're going to pay off debt. The first thing that I tell them, and it probably sounds very self-explanatory when I say it, stop taking on new debt. Like you got to stop the bleeding somewhere, right? So you got to figure out, I don't care if you got to cut the cards up, if you got to put them somewhere, have an accountability partner, hold them somewhere, whatever you got to do to be able to stop the bleeding, you have to stop taking on new debt. Because if you don't, it's just going to be a never-ending cycle of you continuously being in debt and never being able to pay it off. So that first step is extremely important. The second one is we got to sit down and figure out how much we owe on all of these different debts, whether it's personal loans, if it's credit cards, if it's a combination of the two, if it's car notes, because I sometimes throw car note into that. But we want to figure out how much we owe on each of these outstanding items, and then list them. I usually list them from the highest balance down to the lowest balance. And I'm going to tell you in a minute why we do that. But we want to figure out how much we owe. Then the next thing we got to do is we got to create a budget. Now, most credit cards have a minimum payment requirement, right? And minimum payment requirements are usually anywhere from 2 to 3% of the balance. So if you owe $1,000, the minimum payment is probably going to be like $200, right? So, and in some cases they may lower it. So it does depend also on the interest rate. So sometimes you may have $1,000 credit card balance and it's like $70 is the minimum payment, right? So it really does depend on the balance and the interest rate. Mm-hmm. If you are ranking them from the highest balance to the lowest, I usually tell people that we should do what is called a reverse snowball method. I don't know if you've heard this before, but a reverse snowball method means I'm going to pay the minimums on the highest balances, and on the lower balance, I'm going to take more of my budget to pay that off because it has the lowest balance. I can pay it off quicker. Mm-hmm. So if I have, I'll just use 3 credit cards to make the math simple. I have 3 credit cards. I owe $3,000 on one, $2,000 on the next, $1,000 on the other one. So I'm going to put more of my payments towards the $1,000 balance card, and I'll just do the minimums on the $2,000 and the $3,000. Mm-hmm. What will happen is that when I pay that $1,000 card off, I'm creating momentum. I'm also giving myself a sense of accomplishment because I've paid something off. Now I can carry that momentum into, I'm going to take the payments I was paying on this $1,000, and I'm going to add it to the payments that I was doing on the $2,000 to supercharge that payment, right? Mm-hmm. Once I pay the $2,000 off, I'm going to take all the payments from the $1,000 and $2,000 and plus add it to the $3,000 and pay that off quicker. That's why you call it a reverse snowball, because as we get to the higher balances, you have more money to put towards it, which accelerates the payments. But I tell people that when you do it that way, what ends up happening is that you're able, like I said, to put that sense of accomplishment. You're able to pay off that debt usually sooner, and then you can avoid things such as, oh, I got to file bankruptcy, or I got to do this or do that to try to pay off the debt. So creating that budget, using that reverse snowball method is a great way to pay off debt. You know, like I said, it's just giving you a sense of accomplishment when you start off with the lowest balance first. The other thing, and this is the last point I'll make, is that for some people, I might tell them, you know, if it is possible to earn some extra money, maybe a work from home job, maybe, you know, I'll tell a personal story. When I started my financial planning company in 2020, it was in the middle of the pandemic. I couldn't go out and get clients. I had to rely on online networking and lists, which was a lot more difficult than if I could go out to events and meet people, right? So what I had to do early on in the start of my business is I worked at the Amazon warehouse. So I would get up at 4 a.m. I think about, I get a little bit emotional when I think about it, because it was so much work to have to do that and try to start a business at the same time. But I get up 4 a.m. I would go to the Amazon warehouse and I would work from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. because the market's open at 9. So I knew that if I'm an investment business, so I had to be there for the market open, right? So I worked from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. I would come home, I would take a quick nap for 30 minutes, get up, and I would start calling these different lists to try to get clients. And then what I would do is at 5 p.m., I would stop, and I would take the night shift for Amazon to earn some money, because I was putting on credit card debt to pay to start the business. Right. So I was like, I didn't want my credit card debt to get so high that I wouldn't be able to pay it off. So I was taking the money from Amazon and paying the credit cards, and then also paying some of the bills because I wasn't making enough money yet on the business. So that was just survival for me. I said, well, I got to do something because I got a wife at home, you know, and we have bills, and I can't, if I want this business to work, I'm going to need to persevere until I can do it. And so sometimes looking for extra ways to make money is a way for you to then pay off that credit card debt, you know, and that's the thing. Even if you do it for a short period of time, just earn those extra funds just so you can pay the debt off faster. And once you pay it off, quit the job. That's what I did. You know, once I got out of the woods and the business started making money, I said, I don't need the extra income from Amazon. Let me focus entirely on my business. So those are the things that I look at when it comes to trying to pay off credit card debt. Is like I said, just in summary, stop taking on new debt, rank your bills from the highest down to the lowest, start with the lowest balances and pour more of your resources into that and pay the minimums on the other. And then if that is not helping you to pay it off faster, look for ways to make extra money so you can put that money towards the debt.
Listen, that's a lot of stuff that you've given us, and I appreciate it, because it's a lot of things, just taking a lot of it in. Like I said, you know, me and you have had some of these conversations, but just even some more stuff that has to be go into. So I'm thankful for that part. But in closing, tell people how they can connect with you, for those who may want to ask you more questions or even inquire about your services, how they can connect with you and be a part of this financial health track.
Well, one of the easiest ways to find me is on social media. So on LinkedIn, if you look up Wes Ifan, so WESIFAN, you can look me up there. You can look up my company, which is Kobo Wealth Strategies, so KOBO Wealth Strategies. If you look that up, you'll see the website, you'll see, you know, my social media. That's an easy way to get a hold of me. I usually tell people that even if you want to just reach out to me, if you go to the website, there's a contact us, and it comes directly to either my email or my sales assistant's email. So either one of us will get back to you right away. And that would be a great way to connect. And then finally, the business line is 862-203-5012, because sometimes people just want to give a call. So 862-203-5012 if you want to connect and give a call to the business. And I don't, just so that people know out there that are listening, I don't have minimums. I don't have like, you got to have a certain amount of money to work with me. I work with everybody because I believe that everybody deserves to have at least access to some kind of financial counsel and financial advice. And
Absolutely.
so, whatever extent that I can work with you on, we'll figure that out. I tell people that I'm not free, but I'm also not, outrageously expensive.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I tell people if you need the help, get the help, and
Absolutely.
talk to a professional. Like myself, there are a lot of great advisors out there. I'm just partial to myself, right? I feel like I work hard and I do help people, and I genuinely want to make sure people are doing well. So, yeah.
Listen, you guys, and he is true and authentic to himself and what he is dedicated to what he is providing. Listen, and when it all, if you can't remember none of that stuff, just hit me up in the comments, send me an inbox. I will gladly share his information with you to get you to him. I'm not the wealth strategy person. That's what you call him for. I'm just here to bring the information to you guys. Again, thank you, Wes, so much for joining this conversation and bringing such good meat to the table for people to take away with, and prayerfully it blesses somebody and encourage them to get on this financial health track to make themselves have a better life. I don't want people to feel defeated and that it cannot be done, because it is doable. We just got to put the same amount of effort that we put into anything else, making it work, put it into this, because this right here is securing our legacy, securing our future, and as well as helping us to live financially freedom in this world. So thank you again. And until next time, you guys, this is bye.